Back here in London, the Prime Minister, confronted by a list of people named online as paedophiles, warns of the risk of a witch hunt of gay people. We shall be investigating whether inquiries ever ultimately help victims get at the truth.
Well, for 9 years, one woman was central to all the inquiries into the abuse scandal here in North Wales. From the initial investigation in 1991, which led to the first police inquiry, and on to the Waterhouse inquiry in 2000, the local council official, Sian Griffiths, kept every detail, every allegation, and she's kept those documents ever since. Well, Porrick O'Brien's been to meet her and to get the first look at her extensive files and the unanswered questions that remain within.
In a small Welsh village, in the middle of the night, on a family kitchen table, the paperwork of child abuse.
What's this?
That is a schedule of abuse. It's a sheet per complaint.
If it was a sheet per rape or per assault, how high up would that bundle go?
Oh. 6, 7 times.
Up to here?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I would think so, yeah.
Before any inquiries or police interest, Sian Griffiths was head of personnel at Clwyd Council. She was there at the very start of the North Wales care home scandal.
That is where we started in June 1991, of all the names of all the people that were involved in abuse of children.
She gave her spider diagram to police. It sparked the original investigation. In '96, she worked on the first inquiry, Gillings. In '97, she ran the council's secretariat to the Waterhouse inquiry. She sat through all of it. Some parts stand out. Like the time Detective Superintendent Peter Ackerley gave evidence. He was asked to list people the police had investigated and had referred to the Crown Prosecution Service.
Obviously rattled a load of names off, people, you know, that we already know about: Peter Howarth, Paul Wilson, Steve Norris, and a number of other people. He then got to the point where he named somebody who has been high up in the government, and at that point Sir Ronald Waterhouse said, no, that's enough, stop, and that was it.
And why did he respond that way?
I've got no idea. I've got no idea. It was just, that's it now.
For legal reasons, we can't tell you that person's name. He was a high-profile public figure and is still alive. Another standout moment. The time convicted paedophile Gary Cook gave evidence. He name-dropped local people that had attended parties. Because he named them, they were called to the inquiry. But he also mentioned the surname of a different high-profile public figure. Were they called?
So Gary Cook mentions the name of a nobody.
Yes.
Randomly,
Yeah.
as part of his evidence, and that person is called to the stand.
Yeah. Yes, he was.
And then Gary Cook mentions somebody randomly.
Yes.
And was that person called?
No.
And has anybody been able to clearly explain to you why those big names were not called?
No.
Sian Griffiths is not a conspiracy theorist. She believes that Waterhouse was worthwhile. She was the administrative gatekeeper who kept everything and showed me only a fraction of it. But then she went further.
Do you think there are people out in the community now that should be behind bars and they're not because the inquiry didn't do its job properly?
Yes. Yes, I do.
She has one man in mind, a local public servant at the time, and this is the effect he had on one victim asked to testify against him.
They tried so hard to get him to actually say something in the witness box about and he just wouldn't. He was terrified. That is how powerful the man is.
There is one man we can name. Sian Griffiths has notes of an interview between paedophile Gary Cook and his probation officer. He names Thomas Kenyon, son of Lord Kenyon, in his flat with victim Steve Measham.
Thomas Kenyon, Lord Kenyon's son, went back to the flat with Stephen, and then Thomas Kenyon alleged that Stephen had stolen something from him, reported it to the police. At that point, Stephen gave photographs of Gary Cook.
This week we reported that in 1979, victim Steve Measham handed police Polaroids that showed boys being raped and several faces of abusers. They eventually led to 2 convictions, including that of Gary Cook. But then the photos disappeared.
Do you know what happened to those?
An order was made for the destruction of those books and photographs. It's contained...
And you know that from paperwork from court?
Yes.
And you have it there?
I do, yes.
Well, what does it say?
The order is to be made for destruction of the books and the photographs.
And why would that be? Why would the photographs be destroyed?
I've got no idea.
There are now 2 new investigations into the police handling of the scandal and into the Waterhouse inquiry. They could do worse than to start at this kitchen table in Wales.
Apart from all the paperwork and all the files and all the folders,
Yes.
did any of this really get to you?
Yes, it did.
What bits?
You can't believe... I suppose you can't believe that people can treat children like that.
And what was the ultimate price paid by some of those boys?
They died. They died.
Who died?
Simon Burley, Mark Humphreys, Peter Wynne, Lee Johns.
Well, Porrick O'Brien joins me live now. Incredibly moving interview there. Does Sian Griffiths, though, have any advice for these 2 new inquiries that the government set up?
Yes, she does. She says that if these investigations are going to take this seriously, there's one first relatively straightforward thing to do, and that is to contact the people who were named during the Waterhouse inquiry and get them back on the stand, so to speak. When I asked her how many people, she said there are probably about 6 key people that need to be called back. When I asked her how many of those are famous or big names, she said about 3. Just to be clear from earlier, Thomas Kenyon isn't one of those names because he, of course, has passed away. But for her, they're the people that need to be back on the stand, so to speak. And what's crucial here is that that one particular name that we named at the end of that film, that man who had that terrible effect on that victim in the stand, she says, is key. The victims want to hear from him, as do we.
Does she have any confidence, though, that we will?
It's too early to tell. I mean, it's only in the last couple of days that the police officers have actually started the work around looking how police have handled this, and a day or 2 since the inquiry into the inquiry, so to speak, has started. So, early days.
Porrick O'Brien, thank you very much for joining us. Well, now, the senior local official referred to in Porrick's report was also named in a list of alleged members of a paedophile ring, which has been given to Channel 4 News. The existence of the list is being made public by this programme for the first time. And it brings together the testimony of 60 victims of abuse at a self-help group in Wrexham. Many were former residents of North Wales care homes in the 1970s and 80s. Kieran Jenkins has this report.
I could still hear the children screaming, crying, doors slamming. That's what I could feel as soon as it went there. It was just like going back to when the abuse was happening.
This was Keith Gregory's home as a young teenage boy. It also houses his most painful memories. But Keith wanted to come back here. He feels he has unfinished business.
I can just see everything happening. Oh. It's bad, you know, it's nightmares, bloody place.
It wasn't just Bryn Estyn. Boys were abused in care homes across North Wales and elsewhere too. The Waterhouse Tribunal concluded there was an active paedophile ring in the area. But it didn't name names. Names that Keith heard day after day at a self-help group he ran in Wrexham. Keith, with the help of other victims, made a list of the people they say abused them. It took 6 years and the testimony of 60 survivors. Channel 4 News is the first to see it. Name after name of alleged abuser, half of whom it's claimed have never been investigated.
We was seeing a pattern. These names were coming out more often. And this is why I believe it's true. Well, I know it's true. It's heartbreaking when you're doing it.
For legal reasons, we can't name the individuals on the list. Not only care workers, but businessmen, market traders, shopkeepers and prominent officials. There are in all 54 names on the list. 38 of them are accused of sexual abuse. There are also accusations of physical abuse. There are 11 women on the list, 7 of them accused of sexual abuse. And these people come from all over Wales and beyond, from Flintshire, Cheshire, Connaught, Gwynedd, Shropshire and London.
I've even offered this to the police, and if they want to come and see it again, they can, you know. But this time, please look at it and investigate it.
Among the names on this list is that of a high-profile local official. Now, a highly credible source has told Channel 4 News that for a period in the early 1980s, this individual was seen at Bryn Estyn 2 or 3 times a week. It's a name Keith and many of those he has helped are all too aware of, and he wants that person brought to book. What he's getting is 2 inquiries, one of which will look at the way police handled the original investigation.
This is why I'm shocked now that Theresa May has brought in the police force to look into a police force. You've only got to look at what happened at Hillsborough.
What's happened in Wrexham is looking murkier by the day.
It's disgusting knowing that we're probably still living amongst the people that did things to us.
Well, joining me now is Councillor Keith Gregory, who you just saw in that report from Kieran Jenkins, and Bill Brereton, a former Deputy Police Commissioner here in North Wales. Well, Keith Gregory, do you have any confidence now that you'll be listened to and believed in these latest inquiries?
I'm quite hopeful. I'm quite confident, to be honest, now that the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary and the Welsh Assembly have promised not to leave no stones unturned, and that I'm quite hopeful.
The Waterhouse inquiry promised that, though, last time. What gives you that hope that things will be different now?
I think if people have changed the views of the views that people seen used to think about.
The culture's changed.
Yeah, culture change. That's what it is.
Bill Brereton, we've had dozens of police investigations, more than a dozen council inquiries, the Waterhouse report, all of these inquiries, and yet so few convictions. Why do you think that is?
I think there's lots of reasons. I mean, for me, the way forward is quite properly to have an outside force investigation, and that's been called for, as I understand it. I think it's very important that right up front, everyone is required to declare whether they have been or currently are a Mason. Section 81 of the Waterhouse report touches on it very fleetingly. It may or may not be a problem, but let's have it out in the open and make sure that people know what's going on.
Well, because the Masons were, and maybe still are, very powerful here. I mean, do you think there were people being protected by pillars of the establishment? I
don't know. I mean, you know, there's an investigation to be done, and clearly that's not me because I'm retired. But the fact that the questions there needs solving, it needs clearing once and for all, and the suggestion that there could be undue influences has to be dealt with. I was never a Mason, never have been, never will be, and I was always very clear on that, and therefore it never touched on me. But I think if you know, it's that concern that if you don't know, you just don't know what's going on in the background.
Keith Gregory, are the Masons an avenue that needs to be investigated?
Masons definitely need to be investigated, especially in North Wales. I think nearly everyone, especially on the list that I have, are all members of some sort of Masonic lodge.
The Prime Minister has spoken today about the danger of a witch hunt, and you've got to say that a lot of these allegations relate to many decades ago. You're relying on people's memories. How much of a concern do you think that is?
I don't think it'll ever turn into a witch hunt. I hope it doesn't, but we are getting people coming forward, really upset people.
So you think it's the scale of allegations about the past that is emerging now? It's not a witch hunt, but it's just the scale of people who've been affected by this that you're interested in?
Yeah, it is. It's genuine, honest people coming forward with a story to tell, which they were never allowed to do last time.
Bill Britton, you think there's a danger of a witch hunt?
Well, I think any society should be judged how it deals with vulnerable people. And as I understand it, the Prime Minister said something about gays. This isn't about gays, it's about paedophilia, which is, you know, it's a completely different issue. You know, two consenting adults, fine. But, you know, this is not that. And I think, it's the test of society is how we deal with people who are vulnerable. And these were vulnerable people and they weren't treated properly, and they should be.
Bill Britton, Keith Gregory, thank you very much for joining me.